Tiger King roared into our screens last summer, pun absolutely intended, and had people all over the world glued to their TV screens. People picked sides and were firmly Team Carole or Team Joe. Inevitably, Joe was sent down for plotting to kill Carole Baskin, who he believed had killed her first husband and fed him to her big cats. Stay with us, as today we are discussing the most shocking revelations from TK2. First up, what happened in Season 1? The first season followed the escapades of the eccentric big cat owner, Joe Exotic, an openly gay owner of an exotic pet sanctuary in Oklahoma. The show profiles Joe and his struggles after being accused of planning to kill a Florida woman by the name of Carole Baskin after she accused Joe of mistreating the animals in his care. Joe is an aspiring country and western singer who is charismatic but definitely misguided too. He takes a dislike to Baskin, who he accuses of killing her husband and feeding him to her animals after he went missing 25 years ago, having still never been found. The show introduces a number of quirky characters, including Doc Antle, the self-described conservationist and animal trainer who actually faced criticism from conservation groups and after the show was indicted on 15 counts, from animal cruelty to wildlife trafficking. Also on the show, we have Joe's boyfriends, John Finley, who, plot twist, has since revealed he's not actually gay, and Dylan Passage, who married Joe back in 2017. Then we have Jeff and Lauren Lowe, who appear to have scammed Joe out of his zoo, and also the legless zookeeper, John Reinke, who, all things considered, seems to be one of the sanest people on the show. It is truly great viewing. What did you make of Season 1? And are you Team Joe or Team Carole? So let's discuss the most shocking moments from the second season, starting with the confession from Alan Glover. Sparks flew in the final episode of the second season when Alan Glover, the bungling hitman hired by Joe to kill Carole, revealed that, wait for it, he had lied. He went on to reveal that the real target was Joe himself after colluding with the real villain of the piece, Jeff Lowe. Lowe and Glover admit they lied about the fact that Joe had hired Glover, and there are claims that there is in fact a tape in circulation where Lowe can be heard speaking with a federal officer about framing Joe. Lowe can apparently be heard on tape saying, I can completely effing set him up. I can do this. I can say, where did you get $3,000 to pay Alan to go kill Carole Baskin? The apparent Fed also says that if Joe did say that, it would be good information. John Phillips, Exotic's lawyer, claims that this recording was available at trial, but Joe's counsel never used it, nor did they decide to cross-examine witnesses. What do you think of these claims? Is that all then? Absolutely not. That wasn't even the most shocking part of the fifth episode. Glover went on to reveal, in a sworn affidavit no less, that Lowe had turned on Joe and had planned to kill him by using Glover himself. It sounds like these guys couldn't organize a drinking session in a pub. Glover goes on to say that Lowe was a 50% beneficiary on Mr. Exotic's life insurance and reveals that they both planned to decapitate him. Lovely. This would clear the way for Lowe to take full ownership of the park and also cash in on Joe's death. And I thought my friends could be flaky sometimes. Joe had claimed that Glover and Lowe had planned to do exactly what they had planned to do to Carole, sling a piece of barbed wire to some posts at head height and hope the Tiger King somehow was going at the right speed to fully decapitate himself. Sounds unbelievably far-fetched. Surely there's an easier way to kill someone. Not that we're condoning murder, but we're simply questioning the method. Glover even shows us in the episodes how the plan was supposed to work and where they planned to set up the trap, then revealing that it was himself and Lowe who set Joe up for conviction. Phew! Did you get all that? Somewhat unsurprisingly, Jeff Lowe declined to comment. Would you believe? Do you think Glover's telling the truth? Why would he lie, right? Next up, we have a Donald Trump mention. In the first episode of the season, we see Joe's team trying to get him out of prison, which might actually be a possibility now, given Glover's revelations. Eric Love, part of Joe's team, is actually trying to get President Trump to issue a pardon to Mr. Exotic after claiming that Team Tiger was actually scheduled to meet with the then-president's son. The meeting was scheduled for a fundraising dinner, but that was abruptly canceled after Don Jr. contracted COVID. Obviously, the meeting never went ahead, and Joe stayed firmly in jail. Bummer. We're addressing claims that Joe was raised in an abusive home next. Stick around. And what will probably provide zero shocks to anybody whatsoever, it was revealed in the early episodes how Joe was actually brought up, and it wasn't exactly Little House on the Prairie. Guest starring on Season 2 with Joe's brother, who actually hasn't seen his eccentric brother in over 20 years, but he did give us a bit of an insight on the makings of the man. Mr. Schreibvogel revealed to viewers that their father was often abusive towards the brothers as youngsters and would drown puppies in a sack just to mess with us, which is a pretty horrific thing to witness at a young age. Joe had also said earlier that his father was physically abusive to him, hitting him with a shovel and on one occasion almost drowning his brother in front of him. Pretty rough. What do you make of Joe's personality? Will this be enough to turn him into the man we saw in the original Tiger King? Next up, was Joe's ex-husband's death a turning point for the Tiger King? We hear from Joe's ex-wife in the first episode who reveals key characteristics of the younger Joe. She reveals that the two never had sex before marriage as Joe was a gentleman, or maybe just that he was a gay man, right? Shortly after, when Joe was 19, he came out and married a man named Brian, who ultimately passed away through through complications brought on by HIV. Brian actually died in front of Joe in the parking lot on one of their frequent trips to hospital, and this event hit Joe pretty hard, which is understandable. From this point on, Joe was never a normal guy, and his ex suggests that this was in fact the point in which he actually became the Joe Exotic we all know today. We cannot imagine how hard it would be to lose a loved one in that way. Next up, accusation of Carole and her ex being involved in some shady money deals. Stay tuned. Don Lewis, who Joe actually believes was murdered by Carole and fed to her big cats, was cited in a federal document as being alive and well and living down in Costa Rica. We know Baskin filed a missing persons report, but was she in on the conspiracy? In the second episode, the documentary team travels to Costa Rica in a bid to find people who knew Don and find out what they know. The people who were actually interviewed claim that they hadn't actually seen him since he disappeared, but that he would regularly fly down when carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars on his private plane. The theory goes that with this cash, he would set up shell companies and launder money, only using jungle airports and sticking to flying below 1,000 feet to avoid detection by radar. The plot thickens. His daughters think that he was just moving his money down there to get away from Baskin, as they put it. What do you guys think? More on Don Lewis now. Stay where you are. In the second episode, it was alleged Mr. Lewis liked to indulge in relations with underage girls, which is as disgusting as it is horrific for any of the young girls involved. If this is actually true, being fed to tigers would be a light punishment in our opinion. His chauffeur is quoted as saying he liked them young and beautiful. A neighbor of Lewis has said that his house was known as the cursed house throughout the neighborhood because of the strange goings-on, and it always had young women coming and going. Other theories have suggested that Lewis is actually alive, but sources close to him have rubbished these reports, saying that he could never go 23 years without contacting his daughters, unless in fact they're in on it. The second season of Tiger King doesn't really offer any proof one way or another on the fate of Don Lewis, but we're inclined to believe he probably isn't around anymore, but we hope if there's a season 3, it uncovers the truth as to his fate. As always, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to stop by next time for some more fun and games, and remember to share our video, all you cool cats and kittens. Bye, guys.